When he was leader of the opposition, the Prime Minister said, and I quote, "I never turn on my staff. When they make mistakes, I carry the can." What changed?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I've accepted responsibility and apologised for the mistakes that I made. But let me say this, Mr. Speaker. Morgan McSweeney helped me change our party and helped me win a landslide election victory, which delivered for them the smallest Tory party in over 100 years. And what's her great achievement? To make it even smaller.
What do you get when you mix a prime minister clinging to power, a scandal swirling around his inner circle, and a brand new Tory leader with a point to prove? You get prime minister's questions turning into political speed dating, except instead of roses, they're handing out receipts. Because within minutes, not hours, not days, not after a warm-up lap, minutes, Keir Starmer was skewered by Kemi Badenoch at PMQs. And not with a gentle nudge either. This was surgical, sharp, delivered with the timing of someone who knew exactly where the weak spot was. Welcome to Brit Hour, where Westminster drama gets the spotlight it deserves. If you love sharp political breakdowns without the boring bits, make sure you subscribe and click that notifications bell icon so you never miss the next showdown. Now let's set the stage. Sir Keir Starmer walks into the Commons under pressure. The Lord Mandelson scandal is hanging over Downing Street like a storm cloud that refuses to move on. His top aide has quit, the headlines are loud, the backbenchers are restless, and the opposition can smell vulnerability the way seagulls smell chips on Brighton Pier. Enter Kemi Badenoch, new Tory leader, fresh energy, nothing to lose, and everything to gain. Her first question? Not a soft one, not a let's warm up the room kind of question. No, she goes straight for the jugular. She reminds Starmer of his own words, always a dangerous move in politics because politicians love quotes until those quotes boomerang back at them. When he was leader of the opposition, she says, the Prime Minister said, and I quote, "I never turn on my staff. When they make mistakes, I carry the can." What changed? Boom! Now pause there. That's not just a question. That's a narrative in one sentence. It's framing, it's contrast, it's accountability wrapped in politeness. And you could feel the temperature shift. Because PMQs isn't just about policy. It's theater. It's gladiator combat in suits. And Badenoch didn't come to spectate, she came to perform. Starmer fires back. Calm tone, measured delivery, says he's accepted responsibility, apologized for mistakes, then pivots. And here's where it gets spicy. He praises Morgan McSweeney, the aide at the center of the storm, saying he helped change the party, helped win a landslide, delivered the smallest Tory party in over 100 years. And then he flips it. What's her great achievement? To make it even smaller. Classic deflection. When under fire, remind everyone the other side once lost badly. But here's the thing. That line might have worked 6 months ago. When Labour was riding high, when the landslide glow hadn't faded, when the government felt stable. Right now, it felt a little recycled, because the political mood has shifted. Let's break this down. Starmer's strategy since entering number 10 has been stability, professionalism, competence. We are not the chaos, was the implicit message, after years of Tory turbulence. But scandals chip away at that image, slowly, quietly, like water on stone. The Mandelson saga isn't just about one figure. It's about perception. It's about whether the Prime Minister practices what he preaches. It's about whether "I carry the can" still applies when things get uncomfortable. And Badenoch understood that. Here's what made her move clever. She didn't shout. She didn't overdo it. She simply held up a mirror. In politics, the most dangerous attack isn't always the loudest one. It's the one that forces your opponent to explain themselves. And explaining is never as powerful as leading. Now let's zoom out for a second. Why does this moment matter? Because leadership narratives are fragile. When Starmer was in opposition, he positioned himself as the grown-up in the room, the man who would clean up politics, restore standards, bring integrity back. But politics has a brutal rule. The standards you campaign on become the standards you're judged by. It's like promising you'll cook a 5-star meal and then serving beans on toast. Suddenly, everyone's checking the ingredients. Badenoch is building her leadership around contrast. She wants to frame labor not as saviors, but as hypocrites, not as steady hands, but as politicians who say one thing and do another. And PMQs was her first big stage as Tory leader to test that message. Did it land? Well, in the Commons chamber, the noise was predictable. Cheers, jeers, theatrical outrage. But outside Westminster, that's where the real audience is. Because most voters don't watch every exchange. They see clips, headlines, moments. And what changed is a clip-ready question. It's simple, memorable, shareable. Now let's talk about Starmer's counterpunch. Bringing up the landslide and the Tories' historic defeat is politically smart. It reminds voters of recent history. It says, you had your chance. But here's the twist. That landslide victory is no longer fresh. It's now something the government must defend, not just celebrate. Winning an election is like getting a gym membership. The applause happens when you sign up, but the real test is whether you actually show up and lift the weights. And right now, Labour's being asked whether it's still lifting. Meanwhile, Badenoch is repositioning the Conservative Party as the scrappy challenger again. That's a very different role from governing. Opposition is easier. You get to ask the questions, you get to poke holes. You don't have to produce the full blueprint. And Badenoch, to her credit, is leaning into that. But let's not romanticize it. The Conservatives still carry the baggage of recent years: economic turbulence, internal battles, leadership carousel madness. So when Starmer jabs back with smallest Tory party in 100 years, he's reminding everyone of that chaos era. The question is, does that line still sting, or has the political conversation moved on? Here's where it gets interesting. British politics right now feels less like a stable chessboard and more like a game of Jenga. Every move matters, every scandal removes a block, and you never quite know which one will wobble the tower. The Mandelson controversy may not bring the tower down, but it weakens the "we are different" argument, and Badenoch's strategy is clear: pull at that thread, keep pulling, see what unravels. Let's talk tone. Starmer's style is methodical, loyally, controlled. Badenoch's is sharper, more direct, less interested in soothing, more interested in challenging. That contrast creates energy, and politics thrives on contrast. Because if voters can't see a difference between leaders, they disengage. PMQs showed that the difference is alive and well. Now, here's a key question. Is this the start of a sustained offensive or just an opening flourish? New leaders often come out strong. The adrenaline is high, the expectations are manageable, the spotlight is forgiving. The real test is consistency. Can Badenoch keep landing blows without overreaching? Can Starmer absorb pressure without looking rattled? And here's the deeper layer: internal party dynamics. Whenever a prime minister faces public questioning about loyalty and responsibility, backbenchers watch closely, because what's said at the dispatch box echoes down the corridors of power. If staff feel exposed, morale shifts. If MPs sense weakness, ambition stirs. Politics isn't just about public opinion, it's about internal confidence. And what changed is a question that resonates beyond the chamber. Let's simplify this with an analogy. Imagine a company CEO who promised employees, "I'll always back you." Then a controversy hits and a senior manager exits under pressure. The CEO says, "I take responsibility," but the manager is still gone. Technically accountable, but emotionally there's tension. That's the space Badenoch is exploiting. Not legality, not procedure, perception, and perception wins elections. Now, before we get carried away, one fiery PMQs does not topple a government. Starmer still commands a majority, Labour still holds power, policy still moves. But moments like this shape momentum, they create narrative currents, and politics is often about riding the current rather than swimming against it. So what happens next? Expect Labour to double down on competence messaging. Expect them to highlight achievements, economic stability, legislative wins, international diplomacy. Expect Badenoch to keep pressing on consistency, standards, accountability, trust. It's a classic battle frame, delivery versus integrity, and voters, they're the jury. Here's the final twist. PMQs is often criticised as noisy theatre, shouting, point-scoring, punchlines, but every so often a single question cuts through. What changed? 14 letters, 2 words, 1 narrative challenge. That's the power of political messaging done right. Whether you support Starmer or Badenoch, one thing is clear: British politics just got more combative. The honeymoon glow of victory is fading, the opposition has found its rhythm, and the Prime Minister is discovering that governing under scrutiny feels very different from campaigning under applause. And that's why this moment matters, because it signals a shift from consolidation to confrontation, from celebration to justification, from landslide to liability management. And on Brit Hour, we'll be watching every move. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to subscribe and click the notifications bell icon so you're first in line when Westminster erupts again, because let's be honest, it always does. British politics never sleeps, it barely blinks, and if PMQs this week showed us anything, it's that the gloves are officially off. Thank you for watching.